relate what I saw in the night sky last week on the weekend, Saturday. I'm pretty sure it's right near the Big Dipper, and it's what people talk about. I think when they talk about a white light tunnel when they have a near death or like just before they die. Sometimes talk about seeing a tunnel of light. It's um it's there in space, and it revealed to me that space can't be what we're told it is, because all of the stars we think of as being so far away based on a reference that they've given us. But if I asked you without that reference which one of them looks furthest away, and you might pick, a random star because it's the dimmest, this was much further away than the stars appear to be, because the depth gradient opened up and I saw a tunnel of light, and it's more beautiful than I can put into words, literally. It's that kind of transcendent beauty that lets you know that creation is from something that's far more potent than what we're in. I don't know if that's even the right language, but it's massive because of where I saw it in the sky was filling up a large part of the sky for your visual frame of reference when you're using your eyes. So knowing that things that are very large appear very small in the distance, say a mountain, this thing that's in the sky appeared very, very large. And not just in width, but the depth was where you could see how far it opened up, like a bell shape, inverted. And it's like looking through a nebula in space. A very soft gold light, kind of early sunlight blended with bright moonlight. It's hard to really put into words what it looks like exactly, but this is something that I physically saw, not some kind of induced vision or internalization. It's like seeing a natural phenomena of the clouds lighting up. Hello, ethereal N4P. I wasn't planning to speak very long, just to make this a repeated attempt to communicate something that is going to be my focus, because I think there's a way that anybody could recreate what I did. It can't be completely incidental to who I am, because there's no real special skill involved in what I was doing. It's just looking and seeing. But what you see is so incredible that it won't leave you. Got two people saying hello. Rachel Williams. 7 people watching. You can ask me questions if you like. I can leave it on until I'm sure nobody wants to engage on that basis, because I can just keep talking about it, but I'm not sure I just want to freestyle the thoughts, because I'm kind of letting things assemble themselves as they occur to me. Well, I'm trying to do a daily thing on X where I keep bringing it up, That's at realzeusnews.com. You'll see how to spell that in the videos on my channel that I've screen recorded. But yeah, it's one of those things that makes me say they're not actually up there observing anything. It's all faked. It has to be. Because if you consider the way that 3 Atlas is worldwide news, okay, we've got no trouble saying that this is something we've never seen before. This is unprecedented stuff here. Look at this. But if they're looking at any part of this, the space system, then they've seen what I saw. Which means that they're not, because there's no news about it other than me telling you that it's there in the way that people describe things happening in ancient texts, you know. And I don't know if you could tell me that the way things are written in things like the book of Ezekiel, that it was midday, you know. It was noon when this happened, and this happened just above the tree line. You know, things are painted and drawn and described all kinds of different ways, but if you go back to the original recording, I don't know what's there other than a description that I'm giving you, that I saw the gate to heaven open up. And the fact that I saw that when I'm awake, and most people see that when they're having a near-death experience, one of which of several I've had, you know, I've had kind of a sense of a light when the light goes out, if that makes any kind of sense, and a weird kind of transitional awareness you develop through experiences like that, which are not pleasant, believe me. I can't think of a pleasant way to go through those kinds of things, but this is just me standing and looking at the sky, and the only way I could connect it to a mechanic is that I was staring at the Pleiades before this happened, like directly before this happened. And when I stare at the Pleiades, I see, by holding it just off my center of focus, different stars appear more prominent. The kind of twinkle effect takes on weird kind of sine wave patterns that you'll see on a Nokia Deep Zoom or something. It'll happen if you just keep moving your eyes around the center of focus for the Pleiades, and then look to the right, which is where the Big Dipper is, and it's up through past the Big Dipper. And there's a thing I shared just yesterday on X where there's a most famous painting which sold for the most amount of money, and it's considered to be Da Vinci or Da Vinci's disciple. People aren't actually sure which, or it's at least divided people on which it was painted by. It's the one that you might know from Christ holding a transparent orb, and there's 3 stars above his fingers. And they're not arranged in standard Christian symbolism. It's 3 points like a Y. And I think it's the Pleiades, based on if his hand was like this and it was aligned this way. And from there, there's a kind of line through the transparency of the orb that follows the hem of his cloak. So if Jesus is the metaphor for creation, visually, then that's the path up to heaven through his hem, you know, by being as much as he was as you can manage. And these lights in the sky are the specific guide for you to see that it's there, but they work in a interlocking function of frequencies for your eyes to... It's like seeing through tints. That's what the space that we see normally in any kind of optical zoom. We'll see something that's very dense and thick, but under the right alignment, which seems to involve the Pleiades based on it being the only thing I did differently to any other kind of star gazing experience. And when I say differently, I mean I've done this before, but this has never happened. Did it a little bit more kind of the way that you'd view a eclipse. I isolated the Pleiades as much as possible with other things in the environment to block the sky with, and that allowed me to have a loose focus on the Pleiades for a couple of minutes, and that's all I did, and looked up past the Big Dipper and flashed like a cloud would flash. But the size of such a thing, to my mind, reckoning with the figures, even if we throw out celestial distances, something that was that big in my sight, that far away, is unfathomably massive, and that I could see the details in it in such stark relief, tells you that that thing is beyond ginormous, like way bigger than the span of the earth, as far as I understand such things. In terms of depth, deeper than the oceans, based on me seeing it that big in the sky. I mean, we got some comments I'll just read. People saying hello. Talking about a tunnel into light that I saw open up in space. That's for Rachel Williams. I hope she understood that. Orion always stood out to me. I reckon he looks like he's dabbing though. Well, I do have medical marijuana, but that's been a constant thing in my life for as long as I've had medical conditions that require it since I was a young adult. I'm nearly 40. It's actually my birthday on Saturday, 39 on Saturday. I see a lot of blinking stars, red and blue, purple. Sure, there's lots of different ways that you can absorb the light from stars into the eye, and it changes the nature of what you'd see as afterburn and seems to increase the amount of etheric events that you'll see, which you might experience as color shifts or trails in the sky. There's more in my X profile about things that led up to this event and came directly after this event, and this is a very strange time for me in terms of things that are happening around me. I've reached out to different people that are noted for cataloging and study or engagement of such things as best I have been able to. But now it's all just become this focus on this event because this is something that puts so many things into order for the way that people are trying to find something which maybe is visible now through these conditions because of a change that has occurred for phases of time to provide these windows. It might be other things like the result of the state of the world coming to such open strife. It might be that we're facing the loss of the reference point of true reality as we give more of our attention away from true reality to synthetic realities. And the biggest thing for me about this is the way that there's no mention of this in artificial observations, and this was something that I could see from standing on the ground. So if I could see it visually extending behind where the stars were visually, it means they're not filming up in space. It means they're not taking pictures up in space. Everything that's been generated with computers and everything that's been generated before was generated with photography editing techniques and video editing techniques. And before that, there was a different flavor of bullshit for what they call physical reality that we all get so tied up in. And there's so many kind of mental games that are played around the energy that people need to hold your awareness. And that's all it is. If you're entertaining the stuff they're saying, then you're a potential customer, you're a potential victim, you're a potential ally. Okay, it's all serving whatever people have brainwashed themselves into thinking is more important than what made reality. And that's really important because you won't find what I'm talking about anywhere outside of maybe the Bible if you interpret it really loosely like I am. But loosely in the sense that seeing this thing is most certainly in alignment with what Michelangelo was known to paint, like what was the most evocative Christian imagery of a portal and things coming down through it. Seems to be a way that this was noticed by people who were in the advanced levels of ground-based visual astronomy combined with what people consider to be occultic principles, but it's really what every culture differently, which was study the stars. There's an account in ancient South American tradition called Xibalba. That's, I believe it's Aztec, but without putting the culture to the name, Xibalba is heaven in space. And it's a giant, shining kind of shape that billows out at the, like, just beauty beyond imagining tunnel that you go up. It's described as like what I saw. If I start looking into the Xibalba accounts, source materials, etc., I might find that it aligns with where I was looking in the sky. That would really interest me. But there's a number of things that I'm starting to assume might be occurring because of the function of this thing, which could account for the peculiar movements of energy, like the Coriolis spiral and the Phi spiral's deference to a certain direction, and I'd call that direction northeast. The northeast is the primary motion. That's where it all comes from. And this all energy coming from the sun, that's true for the physical expression of the convection, but all of the consciousness and the subtle forces are all much more controlled through consciousness than we've been not so much led to believe, but come to brainwash ourselves into accepting. You know, it's all subject to this pull of this soul attracting thing. And I mean, it looks like something visually that your soul would float up through into light. So there's light coming out of it the way that you would see the light at the center of a galaxy on a computer-generated NASA image. That's visually there in the sky. And that's the combination of the sunlight and the moonlight in the way that I can express to you that you could visualize that. A glowing light that's soft and like there's things that are like clouds of nebula that are ringing this tunnel and all the light's coming through it, and you can see it's got physical properties to it the way that sunlight does. You know, it's profoundly differently to what stars look like. Even if I said that that was compressed to a single point, I don't think it would look like a star. Possibly, but it looked like a different energy entirely, as I keep referring to the what it looked like is if you had a storm that was filling space behind the stars and it lit up with lightning for a second. That's what it looked like in the sky to the naked eye. So what strikes me as profound is that I wasn't on ayahuasca or DMT or any of these things. I was looking at the Pleiades. Probably going to end the stream now because nobody's asking questions unless, you know, somebody wants to ask a question that I'm inclined to answer. I'll give you guys a few minutes. There's only one person looking now, though, I think, so. If somebody's just joining, I'm just waiting for a question on, yeah, okay, NESP. Well, if there's nobody serious, then I will be ending the stream. But what's funny to me is that everybody who would think that I'd have some motivation to make this up, like you'll see this when you die. That's kind of what I'm led to believe 100% is that the first thing that you'll see when you die is that. And whether or not you want to believe that good people go to heaven and bad people go to hell, I think even if you're the most evil person that existed, you'd see that the second you died, because it's so incredibly beautiful that you don't have a single question about the higher value of where life comes from, where consciousness comes from. What does who see? What do they see? All right, look, I'm gonna go.